That 250 people have been killed on Monday alone. The AFP news agency is reporting that the airspace over the city has now been closed. We've also been getting reports of airstrikes on anti-government demonstrators in Tripoli as well as Zawiya. But Mummar Gaddafi's son, Saif, has denied this. And there are some signs that Libya's leader, Gaddafi, is losing some control over his armed forces. Some army officers are calling on their colleagues to remove Gaddafi from power. This after two senior Libyan Air Force officers flew their fighter jets into Malta and defected. They said they were ordered to bombard protesters. And it's not just Air Force officers who are deserting Gaddafi. As many as 9 Libyan diplomats around the world have resigned. Libya's deputy ambassador to the United Nations has called on Gaddafi to step down. Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, she's described the violence in Libya as unacceptable bloodshed. She's called on the Gaddafi regime to respect universal rights. All this as Gaddafi's second eldest son, Saif, announced that he set up a committee to investigate the incidents taking place in the country. David Owen, he's a former British foreign minister and a member of the upper house of the British Parliament, joins us from London on the telephone. Mr. Owen, good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us on Al Jazeera. How concerned are you with the situation in Libya?
Extremely concerned, and I think it is absolutely vital that the Security Council meet in emergency session in New York tonight and pass a resolution to declare the situation in Libya as a threat to the peace under the UN Charter, and under Article 7 take mandatory action. And I believe they should declare a no-fly zone for military aircraft over the whole of Libyan airspace.
Is this no-fly zone something
tomorrow.
Is this no-fly zone something that's going to be cleared? And also, how likely do you think that the UN Security Council will meet tonight?
Well, I know it's a holiday in the United States, but I hope that people in America will absolutely deluge the different delegations in New York. I mean, the United Nations exists to be able to take emergency action, and I think it's absolutely imperative that it is taken. We took a no-flight zone under very short notice in 1991 to protect the Kurds in Iraq from Saddam Hussein, and it was effective and it was implemented quickly. The Security Council is entitled to ask the regional military power, in this case NATO, to supervise a no-fly zone, and NATO could easily ask other Arab countries, such as Egypt, which has of course got a common border with Libya, to participate, and it would be helpful if that was the case. So it was not seen just as a Western initiative. Now, it is possible that it could be vetoed by Russia or China, but I think it's extremely unlikely. And I think that this is what the United Nations exists for, is to prevent a humanitarian crisis. At dawn tomorrow, we could see very major activity from the Libyan Air Force. If a resolution had been passed the night before, the chances of the Libyan Air Force, more officers doing what the two that flew to Malta and not take the orders and take their planes out of the country would be very much greater.
So how do you explain the response, or I should say lack of it, from the UN so far?
One of the problems is that too many countries are deeply compromised from what their attitudes have been previously to Libya. So that's one factor. Also, I think there is a reluctance to involve a condemnation of military action in case countries which they might favor in other parts of the region might wish to take military action and clamp down. But this is a regional reaction. But in Libya, we know now this is a secular action taken as a response to 42 years of oppression under Colonel Gaddafi.
Okay.
And now a situation when it is proven that orders have been given to use the Libyan Air Force to attack protesters. We have the evidence in Malta of two senior colonels of the Libyan Air Force. We also have reports of aircraft already being used. There are reports coming in tonight of ships firing, naval ships from the Libyan Navy firing into Tripoli. These have not, I believe, yet being confirmed. But the evidence is mounting that tomorrow we could see a wholesale massacre unless there is a very strong response. It's not enough for words any longer. The UN must actually pass a resolution to empower people to stop it.
Okay, well, you're mentioning tomorrow. What we know tomorrow is that the Arab League is meant to hold an emergency meeting. Are you optimistic that anything will come out of this meeting, and how much leverage does the Arab League have at this point, when considering some of the countries that are part of the League are going through their own uprisings?
I think it's much more likely that we'll get response, and a positive response, from Arab delegations in the corridors of the UN. But it is to the great credit of the Qatar government that the Prime Minister has spoken out, and the Foreign Minister, quite forcibly and strongly. It's not always easy for countries that are already under pressure to speak out, and it's not the tradition of many Arab countries to do so. But I believe it is imperative that they make their views clear, as their citizens are doing, hour by hour on the world television studios. We've left under no illusion, not just that this is what the Libyans want, but what many Arab citizens around the whole region want. They want the world to intervene to stop Gaddafi using military force against Libyan citizens. And there will be a very serious day of reckoning if the UN is not capable of responding to this. The Secretary General has spoken out courageously and clearly, and the latest news that you've reported, that he is thinking that there will be emergency meeting, is very hopeful. But it must take place tonight, and it must be very clear. No more words. The authority must be taken by the Security Council to intervene with a no-fly zone. That is not putting troops on the ground. That is not interfering in ways which many people would find unacceptable. It is simply stopping aircraft being used from bombing civilians and shooting civilians from the skies.
We heard when Gaddafi's son spoke out, he said that they will fight until the last bullet. I'm just wondering, if any statement were to come out of the UN, would it be heeded to by the Libyan regime at this point?
No. The only thing they will listen to, in my view, Gaddafi and his sons, is action. And the only thing that will stop them is action. And we have the capacity, we have aircraft.